We all know that life in the desert can be harsh. Blistering heat by day, cold winds at night, and scarce water that must be carefully preserved. But have you ever imagined living in Medina during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, where every home, tool, and routine was shaped for survival? In today's video, we'll talk about how people thrived, adapted, and lived in harmony with the desert. So let's not waste any time and let's begin. Your eyes adjust to the gentle dimness inside the clay-walled home, a space that feels both simple and alive with quiet purpose. The walls are made from sun-dried mud brick, their surfaces uneven but sturdy, holding the coolness of the night even as the day begins to warm. In one corner lies a woven palm fiber mat, the kind most people sleep on. Thin, practical, and surprisingly comforting once your body adjusts. A small oil lamp rests nearby, its clay surface smooth from many hands, its wick trimmed for the next night. A few steps away, the house opens into a tiny courtyard, the heart of nearly every home in Medina. Here, sunlight spills through palm leaf shades that hang overhead, creating a dappled mosaic of gold on the ground. A clay water jar leans near the wall, wrapped in a damp cloth to keep its contents cool. The air is still, peaceful, carrying the faint rustle of palm branches swaying above you. Homes in this era are built with intention. Nothing wasted, nothing excessive. Mud brick walls insulate from desert heat, and roofs made of palm trunks and leaves offer shelter while allowing air to breathe through. Everything is created with what the land provides, a harmony between necessity and nature. You begin to understand that survival here doesn't rely on abundance, but on learning the rhythm of limitation, adapting with grace to an environment that demands balance. You notice how the household is organized in layers of practicality. Cooking is done near the courtyard for ventilation. Storage jars line the shaded areas, filled with dates, barley, or fresh water drawn early in the morning. There is no clutter, no stacks of possessions, only what is needed, carefully placed. The simplicity feels intentional, almost grounding, as if the home invites you to live lightly, without the noise of excess. As the sun climbs slowly, the air warms, and you feel the desert's presence pressing gently against the walls. Heat here is not an enemy, but a reality that shapes every movement. To stay comfortable, the people of Medina rely on timing, work in the mornings, rest when the heat peaks, resume duties when the light softens. Clothing is loose, breathable, always designed to keep the sun at a respectful distance. You learn small, but important habits. Keeping water stored in shaded spots, closing off sunlit corners during midday, letting the evening breeze drift through open doorways. These practices aren't luxuries. They're the daily rituals of survival in a land where nature always has the final say. As you settle deeper into the space, you begin to hear the sounds beyond your home. Distant voices greeting one another, the shuffle of sandals on packed earth, the rhythmic thud of something heavy being carried. The city is waking, each sound weaving into the next, creating a living tapestry of community. You step toward the threshold, feeling the coolness of the clay beneath your hand as you prepare to leave the stillness of your new home. Outside, Medina stretches before you, not as a grand metropolis, but as a warm, breathing place shaped by its people. The heartbeat of the city, waits just beyond your doorway, ready to show you how life unfolds in a world built on connection, generosity, and shared purpose. Your first encounter happens almost immediately. A man walks past your home, his steps unhurried, his face open with a familiar kindness. He greets you with a gentle salam, a warm invocation of peace that feels less like a formality and more like a sincere gift. The people of Medina speak the greeting not with routine, but with intention, offering safety, goodwill, and recognition all at once. You soon meet more faces, each one carrying their own story. Some are from the Ansar, the original inhabitants of Medina, who opened their homes, their resources, and their hearts to the newcomers in their city. Their manner is calm, steady, shaped by years of tending fields, raising families, and building this land with their hands. There is a groundedness to them, an ease that makes you feel as if you've stepped into a long-established household rather than a bustling town. Then there are the Muhajirun, the migrants who left everything behind in Mecca. They carry both the weight and the liberation of starting anew. You notice their gratefulness, subtle yet ever present, as they move through the city with quiet determination. Many have nothing but their skills, their faith, and the generosity of the Ansar, yet they walk with dignity, supported by a community that sees them as family rather than burden. The relationship between these two groups is unlike anything you've seen before. There is no cold distance between native and newcomer. Homes are shared, food is shared, opportunities are shared. This generosity is not merely cultural, it is the backbone of survival. In a desert land, a person alone struggles, but a community bound by compassion thrives. Etiquette here is simple but deeply meaningful. A greeting is not rushed. It is given fully, with eye contact and softened expressions. Voices remain gentle even when the streets get busy. People call each other brother and sister, not as casual labels, but as reminders of responsibility. Respect begins with words, continues through actions, and lives in the unspoken understanding that everyone is part of something larger. You learn quickly that hospitality is not measured by what someone has, but by what someone is willing to share. Even a cup of water, a piece of bread, or a shaded place to sit becomes a symbol of goodwill. The poorest among the people still find ways to give, because giving is considered a form of protecting one's own heart from hardness. As you watch neighbors greet one another, laugh softly, or exchange small pieces of news, you begin to understand that social ties in Medina are not built through formality or rigid hierarchy. They grow through presence, through kindness, through the awareness that every person you meet carries their own struggle, their own longing, their own purpose. These connections make you feel less like a wanderer from another time and more like someone finding their place within a living, breathing community. And as you continue observing, you notice something subtle but constant. Greetings rarely happen while standing still. People call peace to one another as they walk, as they head to the well, the market, the fields, or the mosque. Movement is as natural as breathing here, and soon it becomes clear that to understand this place fully, you must follow the rhythm of their footsteps. You begin walking as they do, letting the city guide you, unaware that these paths will lead you into the bustling life of Medina's streets and markets. The streets of Medina are not arranged in neat grids or straight lines. They wind naturally, shaped by the land and by the slow growth of homes and courtyards over time. The ground beneath your sandals is packed earth, warm and textured, dotted with footprints from people and animals alike. Dust rises gently with each step, drifting into the sunlight like soft golden mist. Though simple, these pathways carry the entire movement of the city. Merchants, farmers, families, travelers, all weaving through one another with practiced ease. You begin to notice that no one walks in the middle of the pathways unless they must. It is polite, almost expected, to stay to one side so others can pass. People greet each other as they cross paths, offering soft words and warm smiles, never breaking the calm atmosphere that seems to settle over the entire market district like an unspoken agreement. Even the busiest moments hold a surprising sense of harmony. As you continue forward, the air shifts. There is more noise now, laughter, conversation, the clinking of pottery, the bray of a donkey pulling a small cart. And just ahead, you hear the unmistakable sound of merchants calling out their prices. The market has found you. The souk is a living organism. Tents and stalls line the pathways, each one shaded with cloth or palm weavings to protect goods from the sun. Merchants sit behind their items with pride, arranging everything neatly. Dates in small piles, grain scooped into baskets, pottery stacked carefully, textiles folded in vibrant layers. A subtle mix of scents hangs in the air: dried herbs, warm bread, and freshly tanned leather. To navigate this space, you learn to move with awareness. Don't stand in the center. Don't linger too long blocking a path. Step aside when caravans carrying goods come through, their camels decorated with ropes and bells that jingle softly as they pass. And if you're tempted to wander without direction, understand that you may just end up circling back to where you started. The market has a way of folding in on itself. You begin to see how trade shapes the rhythm of Medina. Goods arrive from distant lands, Syria, Yemen, Abyssinia, brought by travelers who have crossed scorching deserts and rugged mountains. These items mix with local produce, creating a marketplace where the world meets in small, humble stalls. Buying and selling isn't merely business here. It is how stories travel, how friendships form, how news spreads. Every exchange is a thread in the fabric of daily life. You also learn what to avoid. Don't stand too close to animals carrying loads. Don't touch fruits or goods without permission. And above all, remain patient. Bargaining is normal, but it is done with respect, never aggression. Voices rise only when calling prices, not in conflict. The longer you stay, the more the market begins to feel familiar. The voices, the movement, the warmth of community thrumming through every corner. Yet amid the swirl of activity, your attention is suddenly caught by something more specific. Near the center of the market, several stalls display baskets of food, dates glistening under the sun, loaves of warm flatbread stacked like soft pillows, clay jars filled with milk or honey, and bundles of herbs hanging from wooden frames. The sight draws you in instinctively, reminding you that in this world, knowing how to walk the streets is only one part of survival. The real test lies in understanding what and how to eat to keep your strength in the desert heat. And so your path turns, guided by the scent of fresh food and the promise of learning the nourishment of a completely different time. The first thing you notice is that meals here are beautifully simple. There are no lavish plates or elaborate dishes. Instead, you find a selection of foods that have sustained generations through heat, travel, and long hours of work. Dates arranged into neat piles, barley bread stacked in soft, warm rounds, and clay jars of milk and honey resting in the shade. Each item is offered with quiet pride, a reminder that survival in this land comes from appreciating what the earth willingly gives. Dates are everywhere, small, golden, sticky, sweet, rich in energy. They are the traveler's food, the farmer's snack, the market child's treat. A handful can carry you through an entire morning of work. Some varieties melt on your tongue like soft caramel. Others are firmer, offering a satisfying bite. They are eaten fresh, dried, or sometimes soaked in water to create a simple, refreshing drink. Beside the dates is the humble barley bread, its surface slightly uneven, its warmth comforting against your hands. Barley is the grain of the people, used in porridge, soups, and flatbreads. The bread is hearty, filling, and perfect for dipping into fresh milk or pairing with honey. Its taste is earthy, grounding, reminding you of the land beneath your feet. Milk, whether from goats or camels, is kept in clay vessels that help maintain coolness. You watch a merchant pour it carefully, the liquid frothing as it meets the rim of a small bowl. The flavor is rich and slightly tangy, and it serves as both nourishment and refreshment in the desert climate. Honey, thick and golden, is treasured, not just as food, but as medicine. A small amount goes a long way, adding sweetness to bread or soothing the throat during long days of travel. Then there is water, simple, precious water. Drawn from wells early in the morning, stored in clay jars wrapped with damp cloth, it is cooler than you expect. In a land where heat shapes every moment, water is not something taken lightly. You drink slowly, grateful for its clarity, mindful of how essential it is to every form of life around you. As you observe the people eating, you begin to notice customs woven into each action. Meals are not rushed. Food is shared before anything else. Neighbors offering portions of dates, merchants inviting passers-by to taste their goods. Eating begins with gratitude and ends with contentment, not indulgence. Portions are modest. Waste is unthinkable. And everything, from preparation to consumption, is guided by the principles of halal: clean, permissible, respectful of life and blessing. You watch a small family gather under the shade of a woven canopy. They pass bread and dates between them, speaking softly, pausing often to offer food first to elders or guests. You realize that meals here are more than sustenance. They are moments of connection, reminders that nourishment is not only for the body, but for the heart. And as you taste your own simple meal, you feel that connection too. A sense of belonging growing quietly inside you, shaped by the shared rituals of this time. It occurs to you that once you eat here, you are no longer simply observing life in Medina. You are living it. But the moment of rest is brief. The market begins to stir with renewed activity. voices rising as sellers open new baskets and customers gather supplies for the day. People start to move again, returning to their tasks, their families, their responsibilities. You soon understand why. In this world, food gives strength, and strength must be used. With nourishment comes the call to contribute, to work alongside the community that has welcomed you. And so you rise, ready to discover how labor shapes the rhythm of life in Medina. You follow a group of men walking out of the marketplace, each carrying tools with practiced familiarity. One holds a small hoe used for tending crops. Another walks with a coil of rope over his shoulder, likely for tying animals or lifting heavy goods. Their steps lead you toward a field on the outskirts of Medina, the earth rich and dark from early morning watering. Farming, you soon learn, is one of the city's lifelines. Date palms rise in tall clusters, their fronds swaying gently in the breeze. Farmers move among them with quiet precision, checking irrigation channels, trimming branches, loosening soil around the base of each tree. The work is slow and repetitive, but never careless. Dates are precious, providing sweetness, energy, and trade value. Every tree is treated like an investment that sustains entire families. Nearby, women gather herbs from small garden patches, picking them with careful fingers and placing them into woven baskets. Children help by collecting fallen branches or filling small containers with water. Work here is communal. No task is too small. Even the youngest child carries a role that contributes to the stability of the household. As you walk farther, the scent of animals reaches you, warm, earthy, mixed with hay. Goats and sheep bleat softly from simple enclosures, while a shepherd whistles gently to guide them into a shaded area. Animal care is essential. Goats provide milk, wool, and sometimes meat. Sheep offer wool and skins. Camels carry heavy loads and allow travelers to cross desert distances. Tending to them requires patience, understanding their moods, and recognizing signs of illness long before they worsen. Just beyond the animal pens, the rhythmic tapping of a hammer draws your attention. In a shaded alcove, a craftsman shapes metal with steady hands. Sparks jump with each strike, glowing briefly before fading in the sand. Tools, nails, and simple ornaments line the nearby shelves. Another craftsman sits beside him, weaving baskets from palm fronds, his fingers moving with practiced grace. Crafting is the quiet heartbeat of Medina. You don't notice its importance until you realize how many daily tasks depend on these items. Along the streets, you see water carriers making their rounds. Their job may be the most physically demanding of all. Large clay jars hang balanced across wooden poles, laid across their shoulders. They move through the city, delivering water to homes, bakeries, and travelers. Every drop is precious, and these carriers ensure that even those far from wells can drink, cook, and wash. Traders continue their work throughout the day, measuring grain, checking weights, negotiating small but meaningful exchanges. They keep the economy flowing, linking Medina to the wider world through caravans and visiting merchants. Knowledge of distant places spreads through them as easily as goods do. None of these jobs stand alone. The farmer depends on the metal worker for tools. The shepherd relies on the basket maker for feed containers. The trader needs the farmer's produce. The family needs the trader's goods. Survival is not personal. It is shared. The people of Medina move like parts of a single organism, each role supporting the next. As you wander among them, you begin to understand the unspoken rule that shapes the city. Everyone contributes. Work is not merely a way to survive, it is a way to belong. When hands are busy, hearts remain steady, and the community thrives. You continue walking alongside the workers until the fields begin to spread out in front of you, stretching toward the edges of the city. The cultivated land slowly fades into open terrain, where Medina's structured pathways give way to the vastness of valleys and distant hills. The shift from human order to natural landscape is subtle but unmistakable, drawing you onward. Work has led you to the edge of the city, and now the land itself calls, inviting you to understand the environment that shapes every aspect of life here. The first thing you notice is the stillness. Not silence. There is always some sound, a breeze brushing against dry shrubs, the distant rumble of a camel caravan, but a deep, grounding quiet that settles into your chest. Before you lies the desert in its many forms: stony paths, soft dunes, and wide valleys that carry echoes farther than you expect. This land is both harsh and beautiful, demanding respect from those who cross it. To your left rises Mount Uhud, its reddish-brown slopes catching the sunlight like embers. It stands tall and unwavering, a landmark known to every resident of Medina. Locals use it as a guide, a reference point, a silent companion. If you ever lose your bearings, the mountain is your anchor, steady, familiar, impossible to ignore. Travelers speak of it with a kind of affection, as if it watches over the city like a guardian. Around the mountain, the land dips into valleys, wadis that occasionally hold water after rare rainfalls. These valleys may look dry and lifeless, but a closer look reveals hardy plants clinging to the soil, their roots deep enough to survive long stretches without moisture. Birds circle overhead, following paths invisible to you, but instinctive to them. The valleys are natural pathways, guiding travelers safely through shifting terrain. Then there are the dunes, stretching endlessly in soft, sweeping curves. They move with the wind, forming new shapes each day. What is a landmark today may disappear tomorrow, swallowed by drifting sands. This is why desert travel requires more than courage. It requires knowledge. You must pay attention to the position of the sun, the direction of shadows, the patterns of the wind, and the footprints left behind by those who came before you. Even clouds, when they appear, can hint at regions where moisture collects underground. The desert has no sympathy for wandering. You quickly learn that walking without intention is dangerous. The heat rises with startling speed, turning the air into a shimmering veil. Distances become deceptive. What appears close could be hours away. Those who survive here do so by moving early in the morning or late in the afternoon, resting in shade during the peak heat, and never straying from known paths unless properly prepared. Yet the desert is not only a place of risk, it is a place of profound calm. When you pause and let your breathing settle, the vastness becomes almost comforting. The horizon stretches without interruption, reminding you how small daily worries truly are. At night, the sky glows with countless stars, their light unhindered by city, lamps, or clouds. Travelers often rest under these skies, wrapped in blankets, letting the silence ease them into sleep. You begin to understand why people here speak of the desert with reverence. It teaches patience. It demands humility. It offers beauty to those who look closely enough. Patterns in the sand shaped by wind, the resilience of desert shrubs, the quiet determination of animals adapted to survive on little. Even the color of the landscape shifts with the sun, glowing gold in the morning, pale near noon, and deep amber at dusk. As you stand in the open expanse, feeling the sun warm your shoulders, you sense the environment changing. The breeze that once cooled you fades, and the air grows heavier, drier. The heat presses closer, reminding you that beauty here always walks hand in hand with danger. The dryness clings to your lips, and you suddenly understand why every traveler, every farmer, every child in Medina carries a deep respect for water. The air shifts once more, almost whispering a lesson you cannot ignore. In this land, water is life, precious, scarce, and essential. And to survive, you must learn where to find it, how to preserve it, and why it shapes every decision made under the desert sun. As you walk closer to the city's outskirts, you begin to notice how carefully the people of Medina manage their water. Every movement, every gesture seems shaped by the knowledge that this resource is not guaranteed. Wells are the lifeline of the community, dug deep into the earth to reach the hidden veins of cool, clean water beneath. You hear the creak of rope before you see it, a long, steady pull, as one man draws up a clay bucket from the depths of a well. The well itself is simple, a circular stone wall, smooth from years of use, with a sturdy wooden beam supporting the pulley rope. People gather here throughout the day, not in loud crowds, but in gentle rotations. Each person waits patiently, offering greetings, sharing news, or simply standing quietly in the shade. Water here is not taken quickly or thoughtlessly. It is approached with gratitude, handled with care, and used with humility. A woman dips a small cup into her bucket, offering water first to a traveler who has just arrived. This is a common practice. Visitors, elders, and those visibly weary are always served before others. You notice the way she pours the water slowly into his hands, making sure none spills onto the ground. Waste in this environment feels almost like a wound. Once filled, water is stored in clay jars known as kula and in porous containers wrapped with damp cloth. The desert heat evaporates the moisture from the outer surface of the jar, cooling the water inside. These jars are placed in shaded corners of homes or courtyards, always kept away from direct sunlight. Some families cover them with woven mats to protect them from dust and insects. Children learn early how to handle water with respect. You watch a young boy carry a small jug toward his home, holding it with both hands, walking carefully so not a drop spills. His mother reminds him gently, her voice soft but firm, that clean water is a blessing, a gift that must be honored. Even in play, children avoid waste. Their games rarely involve splashing or pouring out water. because even fun has boundaries shaped by survival. Etiquette extends beyond the home. If someone is drawing water from the well, it is inappropriate to reach past them or rush their turn. If a person is drinking, others allow them space. When washing hands or face, people step aside so that any drops fall on unused ground, rather than near the well itself, preventing contamination. The community protects water, not only by managing it carefully, but by protecting the places where it comes from. You learn that sometimes, during hotter months, the wells become more precious than ever. Families coordinate their visits, drawing only what they need. Travelers refill their water skins fully before leaving the safety of the city. The flow of life adjusts naturally around the availability of water, each person mindful of their role in preserving it. The people of Medina also understand how to locate natural signs of moisture. Green shrubs, patches of shade, areas where the ground remains slightly firmer, all hint at life beneath the surface. Skilled travelers can sense these signs instinctively, guiding caravans toward safety when the landscape appears endless and dry. As you reflect on the simplicity and discipline you've seen, you begin to appreciate how deeply water is connected to purity, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Cleanliness is a central part of daily life here, not merely for comfort, but for grounding oneself, renewing intention, and approaching each day with clarity. And as you watch someone pour a small basin of water to wash their hands and face, movements slow and unhurried, it becomes clear that in Medina, water is never just for drinking. It is part of a larger rhythm, one that leads naturally into the practices of bathing, purification, and maintaining both inner and outer cleanliness. As you leave behind the previous routines, you notice how much the landscape shapes daily life. There are no modern conveniences here. No running water, no faucets, no neatly tiled bathrooms. Yet the people move with a calm precision, each gesture shaped by necessity and respect. Cleanliness, you realize, is not a matter of luxury, but of ritual and mindfulness, woven into the rhythm of life. You are introduced first to the basics of purification. Ghusl, the full-body ritual bath, is performed with careful attention to intention as much as method. A simple basin, a limited supply of water, and deliberate movements suffice. Water is poured thoughtfully, from head to toe, ensuring every part is cleansed and every moment is mindful. Privacy is minimal, often shared with others in small communal spaces, but this does not hinder the process. Instead, it emphasizes the importance of efficiency and respect for the resources available. Then comes wudu, the partial ablution performed before prayer. Here, water is measured and movements are deliberate. Hands, mouth, face, arms, feet. Even in scarcity, the essential elements remain intact. Clay pots and shallow basins serve as vessels. Sand may stand in for washing when water is limited, demonstrating the adaptability ingrained in daily practices. You observe quietly, learning that ritual is not about excess, but about intention, focus, and respect for what is available. The lessons extend beyond the act of cleansing itself. You notice that even the simplest tools, a small basin, a clay jar, a cloth, are used thoughtfully and kept in orderly spaces. Every item has a purpose, every motion a reason. In this minimalist world, waste is a conscious concern. Water is precious. Spillage is avoided. And what is used serves a dual purpose, practical and spiritual. You practice, hesitantly at first, pouring water carefully, following the steps in sequence. Each gesture, each splash, carries with it a sense of ritual and discipline. The repetitive nature of these acts, though simple, begins to instill a rhythm in your day. The cleansing of the body parallels the quieting of the mind, and you sense a clarity that comes not from abundance, but from restraint. Even the surroundings support this practice. Small courtyards, shaded nooks, and open-air basins provide modest privacy while connecting you to the environment. The sand underfoot, the cool water against your skin, and the open sky overhead reinforce a sense of presence, of being part of something larger. In these simple routines, you begin to understand the value of order, patience, and care. Cleanliness becomes more than just a preparation for prayer. It becomes a way to move through the world with awareness. You notice how others carry themselves after performing these rituals. Steady, focused, unhurried. The physical act of washing is inseparable from the mental and spiritual renewal it provides. You realize that in this environment, where excess is absent and resources are shared, the discipline of cleanliness nurtures both body and mind. By the time you finish, you feel a quiet transformation. Your hands, your face, your feet, every part of you is refreshed, and there is a subtle clarity to your thoughts. You are ready to step out of the courtyard and into the streets, carrying this renewed presence with you. The next destination is the masjid, not to observe its leaders or personalities, but to understand its place in the rhythm of the city, the way it structures daily life and community, and how these small acts of care connect to something larger than yourself. Stepping out of the courtyard, you carry with you the quiet clarity that comes from careful cleansing. Your movements feel lighter, more deliberate, as if each step is part of a rhythm established long before your arrival. Ahead, the mosque rises modestly, not grand or ornate, but functional, open to the sky and the breeze. Its walls are simple, its roof minimal, yet there is a sense of calm authority in its presence. You sense immediately that this is more than a building. It is the heart of the community. The mosque's open-air layout allows sunlight and wind to circulate freely. There are no gilded decorations, no lofty towers dominating the skyline, only clean lines, shaded corners, and simple mats for prayer. People gather in small groups, their conversations soft, their movements unhurried. Some sit to read or memorize, others engage in quiet discussions. The space is both practical and spiritual, designed to accommodate many functions without excess. You learn that the mosque is a hub of daily life. It is where neighbors meet, share news, and exchange ideas. It is where learning occurs, from children sitting in small circles with their instructors to adults gathering to discuss law, ethics, and practical matters. You notice benches and mats for sitting, clay pots of water for ablution nearby, and modest shelves holding texts and scrolls. The mosque serves as a center of both communal and intellectual nourishment, offering structure and support to the surrounding neighborhood. Observing quietly, you see how people move in and out with ease, carrying baskets, books, or simple tools. Conversations flow naturally, yet there is a mutual respect that permeates the space. Even when disputes arise, they are handled with calm, guided by principles of fairness and consideration. In these interactions, you recognize the mosque's role as a stabilizing force, a place where the community's shared values are reinforced daily. The sounds of the area are gentle and familiar. Footsteps on packed earth, the rustle of cloth as people adjust their garments, the soft voices of those reciting or teaching. The environment encourages reflection, not spectacle. You begin to understand how the mosque's simplicity fosters connection to one's neighbors, to knowledge, and to a sense of higher purpose. Time passes slowly, marked by the flow of activities rather than strict schedules. Children chase one another in the courtyard. Elders offer advice or share stories, and students repeat lessons quietly to themselves. Everyone contributes in some way, whether through teaching, listening, or simply maintaining the space. There is an unspoken rhythm here, a balance between individual tasks and collective responsibility. As you watch, you also notice the mosque's practical features. Open areas double as meeting spaces, shaded corners provide comfort during the heat, and small steps or ledges offer places to rest. Even the arrangement of mats and seating reflects efficiency and care. Everything is designed with intention, prioritizing function and accessibility over grandeur. By the time you prepare to leave, you feel a sense of connection to this daily life, a subtle understanding of the community's heartbeat. The mosque is more than a building. It is a living, breathing center of shared purpose. And as you step back into the sunlit streets, your attention is drawn to a group of travelers speaking animatedly, their hands gesturing toward distant horizons. Tales of journeys across the desert reach your ears, igniting curiosity and anticipation for the stories and lessons that await beyond the city's walls. The desert calls with a quiet insistence, its vast stretches of sand and stone offering both challenge and wonder. Having observed the calm rhythm of life around the mosque, you now prepare to leave the city behind and experience the world beyond its walls. Travelers gather their belongings, check their camels, and adjust the simple packs and water skins that will sustain them on the journey. The air carries a mix of excitement and careful vigilance. In Arabia, every step across the sands requires attention and respect. Camel riding is the first lesson. These creatures, tall and strong, move with a steady, rocking gait that takes some getting used to. You learn how to mount, how to hold the reins gently, and how to rise and settle in sync with the animal's stride. Camels are more than transport. They are companions whose moods and needs must be read carefully. A well-timed pat or calm voice can soothe a restless beast, while careless handling can slow or endanger the journey. Caravans form the backbone of long-distance travel. Small groups of travelers band together for safety, sharing resources and knowledge. You notice that movement is coordinated, with experienced guides leading the way and scouts alert for obstacles or potential hazards. Each member of the caravan has a role. Someone manages the animals, another oversees supplies, while others assist with navigation or offer support to the weary. Cooperation and trust are essential. No one travels alone unless prepared for great risk. Navigation relies heavily on the stars. As daylight fades, constellations become familiar markers, steady points in an ever-changing landscape. Guides teach you to recognize the North Star and other celestial cues, showing how subtle shifts in position indicate direction and distance. The sun, too, is a guide by day, its arc across the sky marking time and progress. In these practices, you sense how deeply connected people are to the natural world, reading it as both map and companion. The heat of the day tests endurance. Travelers pause during peak sunlight, seeking shade or resting in small dunes. Water is rationed carefully, and every sip is savored. Sandstorms, occasionally, sweep across the horizon, reminding you of the desert's unpredictability. You learn to cover your face, secure belongings, and trust in the collective knowledge of the group. Despite the hardships, there is a profound rhythm to this life. Periods of exertion followed by rest, challenges met with preparation, dangers mitigated through cooperation. Etiquette among travel companions is subtle but vital. Respect for shared space, clear communication, and patience ensure harmony on long, arduous journeys. You notice how people assist each other silently, offering water, adjusting packs, helping remount a stubborn camel. Actions that build trust without ceremony. Even disagreements are handled with care. A calm word, a thoughtful gesture, or a quiet compromise keeps the caravan moving forward together. Along the way, you encounter varied landscapes, rolling dunes, rocky plateaus, and scattered oases offering relief and sustenance. You learn which plants are safe to eat, how to refill water containers discreetly, and how to camp in a way that leaves minimal trace. Every step is a lesson in observation, adaptability, and patience. The desert teaches endurance, not through force, but by guiding you to understand its rhythms and limits. By the end of a day's travel, you feel a connection to both the land and your companions. Camels kneel at rest, the evening breeze cools your skin, and the stars above are a map of guidance and wonder. Each journey across Arabia is a lesson in awareness, cooperation, and respect. And as you look toward the horizon, you begin to see the fringes of tribal life. Small settlements and tents hinting at traditions, customs, and the communities that thrive beyond the desert sands, ready to introduce you to the next chapter of learning and experience. The horizon stretches with new signs of life, tents arranged in clusters, smoke curling gently from small fires, and the hum of activity marking the presence of a tribe. After days of traveling across the desert, you arrive at one such settlement, where the rhythm of life is guided by bonds older than the sands themselves. Here, you begin to learn how Arabian tribes operate, their structures, and the rules that govern relationships both within and beyond their tents. Tribal identity is everything. Each group is bound by kinship, ancestry, and shared responsibility. Leaders, often chosen for wisdom, experience, or valor, guide their members in matters of defense, negotiation, and resource management. Decisions are discussed collectively, with elders providing counsel and younger members contributing perspectives. Loyalty to one's tribe is not a casual sentiment. It is essential for survival in the harsh desert environment, where dangers from rival groups, scarcity of resources, and the unpredictability of the land demand unity. Alliances between tribes are equally significant. Marriages, trade arrangements, and mutual defense pacts strengthen ties and provide stability. Across regions, you notice subtle gestures, greetings, and shared customs that signify respect and recognition of these alliances. A handshake, the exchange of dates, or a carefully prepared meal can communicate more than words. Trust is built slowly, and betrayal carries consequences far beyond a single disagreement. Understanding these bonds is key to navigating social life in Arabia. Hospitality is a sacred duty. Guests are welcomed warmly, offered water, food, and shelter, regardless of the tribe they belong to. You observe the preparation of simple meals, flatbreads baked over small fires, dried fruits and nuts carefully arranged, and tea poured with attentive care. Hospitality is not just generosity. It is a moral obligation, a reflection of the tribe's honor, and a safeguard for everyone who travels through the desert. Guest rights are respected fiercely, and any violation of this principle is considered a grave offense. Daily life in the tribal settlement blends work, conversation, and ceremony. Children tend small flocks, women weave and prepare meals, and men care for camels, mend tools, or discuss the news of distant areas. Each member's role contributes to the tribe's survival, teaching you that cooperation is as essential as courage. Even recreation is purposeful. Games and competitions strengthen bonds, celebrate skill, and reinforce social norms. In every interaction, you sense a delicate balance between individual action and collective responsibility. Communication is both verbal and nonverbal. Simple signs, gestures, and tone convey nuanced meaning, while poetry, songs, and stories carry history and values across generations. You notice how conflicts are addressed calmly, with mediation, and often through consensus. The emphasis is on maintaining harmony and continuity. The desert outside the settlement reminds you that survival depends not only on skill, but also on the ability to navigate these human networks thoughtfully. By observing, listening, and participating, you begin to see the significance of tribal bonds in daily life. They are the threads that hold communities together, provide security in a precarious environment, and transmit knowledge, honor, and culture. You sense that these bonds are not merely social structures. They are lifelines, vital for enduring the harsh realities of desert life. As you settle near a fire at dusk, you hear the first murmurs of stories being told, tales of ancestors, heroic deeds, journeys across the desert, and lessons wrapped in metaphor and rhyme. With tribes come stories, passed down orally from one generation to the next, preserving history, teaching wisdom, and connecting the past with the present. You lean closer, ready to listen, as the firelight flickers across the faces of storytellers, preparing you for the next chapter of understanding the rich oral tradition that shapes Arabian life. As the fire crackles in the cool desert night, the day's heat fades into a blanket of stars stretching endlessly above. The tribe settles close, forming a loose circle around the flames, and you notice the quiet anticipation in the air. Here, storytelling is more than entertainment. It is a vessel for memory, culture, and wisdom. The night invites reflection, and the voices that rise and fall carry lessons, humor, and the echo of generations long past. Arab poetic culture unfolds gently before you. Verses are recited aloud, rhythms rolling naturally from the speaker's lips, while listeners lean in to catch every nuance. Some lines celebrate heroism and courage, others honor family and tribe, and still more reflect the beauty of the desert, the wind, the sand, the moonlight. Each poem is carefully structured, with repetition and melody, ensuring it is remembered and shared. You feel the cadence resonate, calming your mind and connecting you to the human experience across time and space. Nighttime gatherings are intimate yet communal. Young and old sit side by side, occasionally contributing their own lines or asking questions that prompt further elaboration. The storyteller observes reactions, pausing to allow laughter, sighs, or moments of silent reflection. The rhythm of speech, the flicker of firelight, and the gentle night breeze create an atmosphere that encourages absorption and quiet contemplation. You notice that even in simplicity, there is richness. Every word carries meaning, and every pause holds weight. Recitation is accompanied by small gestures. Hands sweep through the air to illustrate distance. Feet tap lightly to mark rhythm, and eyes meet to convey connection. These subtle movements reinforce the word's significance without distraction, creating a layered experience of comprehension and engagement. Listening becomes active, almost meditative. Your attention sharpens as you follow the narrative threads woven through each story or poem. You also learn that these stories serve practical purposes. Tales of past journeys, encounters with rival tribes, or survival in harsh conditions provide guidance to listeners, offering strategies, moral lessons, and examples of cleverness or caution. Poetry encapsulates wisdom in forms that are easy to remember and transmit, ensuring that essential knowledge travels even when written records are scarce. In this way, art and survival coexist, each enhancing the other. The night deepens, and you become aware of the subtle transitions in the environment. Animals settle into the desert hush, fires burn low, and the occasional gust of wind shifts the sand in rhythmic patterns. These shifts are mirrored in the storytelling itself, some lines quiet and reflective, others lively and animated. The ebb and flow lull the mind, and you feel yourself drawn into the communal consciousness, understanding that learning is inseparable from listening, feeling, and observing. By the end of the gathering, you carry more than tales. You carry insight. You understand that knowledge is shared through repetition, that wisdom often hides in metaphor, and that memory and culture are preserved in human voice as much as in action. You sense the unbroken chain linking past to present, each storyteller a living link to generations of observers, dreamers, and survivors of the desert. As the fire dies down and the desert night wraps its quiet over the tents, your attention turns naturally to practical concerns. Listening, reflecting, and absorbing the rhythms of human experience prepares you for the next challenge: surviving the desert night itself. The cold, the silence, the distant sounds of animals all become part of the lessons on nighttime survival, teaching patience, awareness, and respect for the environment in which these stories have always been told. As the last tales drift into the night and the fire burns low, the desert shifts around you. The heat of the day has faded, replaced by a sharp, crisp coolness that seeps through your garments. Shadows stretch long across the sand, and the wind rises in soft, whispering currents, carrying the faint rustle of distant dunes. In this quiet, you begin to understand that the desert does not sleep. It changes, and survival requires both attention and adaptation. The first lesson is shelter. Simple tents, or lean-tos, provide protection from chill and wind. You learn to anchor them carefully using rocks, ropes, and stakes, ensuring that the fabric will not collapse under gusts or shift during the night. The ground is cleared of sharp stones, and sand is shaped into small ridges to channel any unexpected water. Even in minimal conditions, preparation is deliberate. Safety comes from anticipation rather than reaction. Torches, small fires, and lanterns offer warmth and guidance, but their light is fleeting. You discover that placement matters. A torch near your sleeping area deters snakes or insects, while a fire at the camp center allows visibility and communal warmth. Flames flicker across the sand, casting dancing shadows that seem alive. You notice the desert's subtle sounds, the shift of sand, the distant howl of wind, the soft padding of animals, which guide your awareness and alertness. Sleeping arrangements are mindful. You are taught to lie with your head slightly elevated, eyes shielded from cold gusts, and belongings close at hand. Blankets or woven mats insulate against the chill, while small bundles of fire-heated stones provide lingering warmth. Positioning yourself near the group ensures both safety and companionship. Alone, the night could be unpredictable. Together, vigilance and shared knowledge transform danger into comfort. Attention to sound and movement becomes second nature. You learn to distinguish the calls of nocturnal animals from the stirrings of fellow humans or the warning signs of approaching weather. Silence, once unfamiliar, becomes a tool. Listening teaches patience, sharpens instincts, and builds a rhythm with the desert itself. Even breathing is measured, quiet enough to remain alert while still resting. Water, limited and precious, is carefully rationed. A sip before sleep sustains without creating need, and containers are secured to avoid spillage or contamination. Every act, from adjusting clothing to positioning animals nearby, is purposeful, reducing risk and conserving resources. The desert night is harsh, but structure and awareness turn it into a manageable experience. Wind and sandstorms test endurance. You are shown how to shield your face with cloth, angle your tent, and adjust your position to minimize exposure. Even small actions, a turned body, a tightened knot, a shielded container, contribute to resilience. You realize that survival is not about conquering the environment, but moving harmoniously within it, respecting its power while protecting yourself. By the time sleep finally comes, it is deep but alert, a balance of rest and readiness. The desert night becomes a teacher. Patience, observation, and preparation are rewarded, while carelessness is costly. Each dawn will bring new challenges and new lessons, but tonight has trained you in subtlety, caution, and trust in both yourself and the rhythms of the land. As the first light stretches across the horizon and roosters crow in the distance, you awaken with the gentle reminder of the animals that sustain life in this world. Camels, goats, and flocks begin their own day, their routines intertwined with your survival and travel. The desert night recedes, leaving behind lessons in vigilance, care, and harmony, preparing you to move forward into the rhythms of daytime life and the ongoing journey that lies ahead. The dawn chorus fades into a gentle hum of activity as you rise from your desert camp. Around you, the animals that shared the night stretch, shift, and begin their own routines. Camels blink in the early light, their long legs steady against the sand. Goats and sheep graze near scattered shrubs, while horses paw at the earth, eager for the day's tasks. You quickly realize that survival in this environment is not just about human endurance. It is inseparable from the care and understanding of these creatures. Camels are the backbone of desert life. Strong and patient, they carry heavy loads across dunes, bridging distances that would be impossible on foot. You learn to read their moods, how a restless shuffle, a flick of the ear, or a low grunt signals discomfort or fatigue. Feeding them requires both knowledge and foresight, as sparse vegetation and water must be rationed to keep them healthy. Grooming, too, is more than a task. It is a dialogue, a way to maintain trust and ensure that your companion will perform reliably when needed. Goats and sheep provide sustenance in multiple ways: milk, meat, and even materials for clothing or bedding. Observing their behavior, you notice patterns in grazing, movement, and rest that signal health and well-being. You learn to herd them carefully, using gentle guidance rather than force. Understanding that the herd functions as a single organism, cooperation, not domination, ensures survival. Their care teaches patience and attentiveness, as each small gesture contributes to the community's overall security. Horses, prized for speed and agility, offer different lessons. Riding requires balance, attentiveness, and respect for the animal's limits. You practice mounting, guiding, and pacing, realizing that harmony between rider and horse is built over repeated interactions and careful observation. Even their diet and care must be managed thoughtfully, as strength and stamina are earned through proper feeding, rest, and attention to the smallest details. Animals are more than tools. They are partners. Each species has distinct behaviors, needs, and signals, and learning to read them becomes essential. You notice subtle cues, the flick of a tail, the direction of gaze, or a change in posture. These signals communicate contentment, distress, or alertness, providing valuable information about the environment, potential dangers, or opportunities for rest and movement. Observing these creatures closely sharpens your senses and deepens your connection to the land. Care routines are intertwined with human life. Feeding, watering, grooming, and moving the animals structure the day, providing rhythm and purpose. Responsibilities are shared among community members, reinforcing bonds and cooperation. You recognize that neglect or haste can have consequences far beyond discomfort. The health of animals directly affects human survival, from food and transportation to protection and trade. Beyond practical concerns, you notice a subtle relationship of respect and companionship. Animals respond to kindness and patience, and in turn, provide stability, reassurance, and continuity. They are teachers of empathy, endurance, and attentiveness, reminding you that life in the desert and fields depends on a delicate balance between care, observation, and reciprocity. By midday, as you help herd goats or adjust loads on camels, you understand the profound interdependence between humans and animals. Their routines shape yours, and your actions safeguard theirs. These lessons are not merely technical, they are moral, social, and environmental, reflecting the deep integration of animal care into daily survival. As the sun begins its descent, you glimpse fertile fields beyond the desert, where animals graze alongside crops and irrigation channels. Their presence naturally leads you to the next phase of life, pastoral and farming practices, where humans, animals, and land coexist in a carefully balanced system, each dependent on the other, and each teaching lessons that extend far beyond mere survival. Beyond the grazing fields, the landscape begins to change. Patches of greenery mark cultivated land, and the faint scent of soil and vegetation rises in the warm breeze. After learning from the animals, your attention turns to the crops that sustain both humans and livestock. Farming in early Medina is practical and deliberate, shaped by seasonal cycles, water availability, and careful planning. Every action is purposeful, a balance between nature's rhythm and human effort. Irrigation is the lifeblood of agriculture. Small channels and ditches guide water from wells or nearby streams, ensuring that palms, grains, and vegetables receive adequate moisture. You watch as farmers adjust the flow, redirecting water to match the needs of the soil and plants. Even in scarcity, every drop is valued. Containers, clay pipes, and simple sluices allow efficient distribution, demonstrating ingenuity and observation refined over generations. Date palms stand tall and proud, their fronds swaying gently. These trees are central to the local economy and diet, offering both fruit and shade. You learn to care for them carefully, pruning fronds, checking for disease, and tending the soil around their roots. Seasonal cycles dictate when dates are watered, pollinated, or harvested, requiring attentiveness and patience. The harvest is a communal event, with neighbors and family members working together to gather the fruit safely, ensuring that none is lost or damaged. Other crops follow similar patterns, with rotations and careful timing to maximize yield. Grains, vegetables, and legumes are planted in accordance with seasonal rains and sunlight. Tools are simple but effective. Wooden plows drawn by animals, handheld hoes, and woven baskets for collection. Each tool has its purpose, and their use reflects a deep understanding of both the land and the plants it sustains. You notice that efficiency does not come from complexity, but from thoughtful observation, careful technique, and experience passed down through generations. Farming is not just work, it is also rhythm. Days are divided by sunlight, water availability, and the cycles of planting and harvest. Children help gather small crops, women prepare seeds and meals, and men tend irrigation channels and larger plots. Knowledge is shared continuously. Elders teach the young about soil health, planting times, and signs of disease. Through this, the community sustains both land and livelihood, each generation learning to read the subtle cues of climate, soil, and flora. You also notice the interconnectedness of farming and animal care. Goats and sheep graze near the fields, providing natural fertilizer, while camels assist with plowing or transporting harvested crops. This harmony between agriculture and pastoral life ensures sustainability, each element supporting the other in an ongoing cycle of care and renewal. By the time the sun begins to dip toward the horizon, you observe the fruits of careful labor, baskets of dates, grains piled for storage, and fields refreshed with water and attention. The air carries the faint aroma of ripe fruit and fertile soil, a tangible reminder of human ingenuity and patience. As workers return home, baskets full and hands weary but satisfied, your path naturally leads toward the next hub of activity, the craft markets. Here, harvested dates are traded, tools are repaired, and goods from surrounding regions converge. The rhythm of agriculture flows seamlessly into commerce and community life, teaching that sustenance, labor, and trade are all intertwined in the vibrant fabric of early Medina. The hum of life from the fields fades as you enter the bustling craft areas of Medina. Here, skill and labor shape the materials of daily life, transforming raw resources into practical and often beautiful objects. Every corner tells a story of human ingenuity. Leather stretched over frames, pottery spun on wheels, metal glowing in the forge, threads interlacing into fabric. In this space, you learn that survival and comfort are deeply connected to the mastery of tools and the craftsperson's attentive hand. Leatherwork is among the most visible crafts. Hides are cleaned, stretched, and treated, then cut and stitched to form sandals, bags, belts, and coverings for tents. You notice the precision required. Each cut and seam must be exact to ensure durability, flexibility, and utility. Leather workers often work with simple knives, awls, and needles, but the skill lies in their experience and attention to detail. A well-crafted item can last years, supporting journeys across the desert or daily life in the city. Pottery, too, is essential. Clay is shaped on wheels or by hand, molded into jars, bowls, and water containers. You observe how different textures, thicknesses, and firing techniques yield items suitable for storage, cooking, or transport. Even the simplest vessels are carefully made to withstand heat, weight, and repeated use. In watching the potter's hands move rhythmically, you sense the balance of patience and precision required to create something both functional and enduring. Metal crafting introduces another dimension. Blacksmiths hammer iron and bronze into knives, tools, and components for wagons or camels. Sparks fly from the anvil as the metal is shaped, cooled, and sharpened. Each strike is deliberate, guided by knowledge of the material's properties and intended purpose. You learn that metalwork combines strength with subtlety. A blade must be sharp yet resilient, a tool durable yet practical. The forge is noisy and hot, yet the rhythm of hammering is almost meditative, echoing the persistence of desert life itself. Weaving is perhaps the most quiet of the crafts, yet no less vital. Threads of wool, goat hair, or cotton are interlaced to form blankets, clothing, and ropes. Patterns emerge as you watch, simple but functional, often reinforced by technique to ensure longevity. Weaving requires attentiveness to tension, rhythm, and consistency, skills passed from one generation to the next. Each finished piece carries both practicality and an aesthetic imprint of the maker's care. Across these crafts, tools are central. Simple implements, knives, awls, hammers, looms, extend human ability, turning raw materials into objects that support survival, trade, and culture. You notice how knowledge of tools overlaps. The same knife might be used in leatherwork, food preparation, or minor repairs, demonstrating adaptability and efficiency. Craftsmanship is not merely production. It is learning to observe materials, anticipate use, and create with both skill and intention. The craftspeople's work is closely linked to the broader economy. Items produced here are used locally or carried across trade routes to distant cities and settlements. The quality of an artisan's work can determine the efficiency of travel, the reliability of daily life, and the value of goods in markets. You see that each crafted object carries both practical purpose and cultural identity, a tangible extension of human ingenuity. As the sun begins to dip, you watch finished goods being packed for transport, tied onto camels, or loaded into carts. These tools and crafted items are ready to travel, supporting journeys, trade, and connection between distant communities. From leather straps to woven blankets, from pots to blades, each object demonstrates the interplay of skill, resourcefulness, and foresight. And so, tools naturally guide your attention to the next chapter. Transportation and trade routes. How people, animals, and crafted goods move across deserts, valleys, and settlements becomes the next vital lesson in understanding the rhythm, economy, and survival of life in early Arabia. The crafted goods you observed in Medina are not meant to remain within city walls. They are part of a much larger network, stretching across deserts, valleys, and mountains. As dawn breaks, you follow merchants and travelers preparing for long journeys along the famed trade routes connecting Yemen to Syria. These paths are the arteries of commerce, carrying not only goods, but knowledge, culture, and connections between distant communities. Caravans form the backbone of these journeys. Groups of travelers band together for safety and efficiency, each member contributing to the shared endeavor. Camels loaded with dates, grains, spices, cloth, and crafted tools plod steadily in organized lines. Guides and scouts lead the way, reading the desert, the stars, and the subtle cues of terrain to avoid hazards. Within each caravan, responsibilities are distributed. Some tend to animals, others oversee supplies, and still others manage navigation and camp setup. Survival depends on coordination, trust, and experience. The goods carried vary with origin and destination. From Yemen, fragrant spices, incense, and fine textiles travel north. From Syria, pottery, metalwork, and dyes move south. Dates and grains, sturdy and nourishing, provide sustenance for both humans and animals along the way. Merchants must calculate loads carefully, balancing the weight of goods with the endurance of camels and the distance to the next oasis. Even minor misjudgments can result in delays, loss, or danger. Life on the caravan is disciplined yet communal. Daily routines follow the rhythm of the desert, resting during peak heat, walking steadily in the cooler hours, and setting up camp with care. Water is rationed meticulously, and food is shared fairly to maintain energy over long stretches. Travelers develop subtle systems of signaling and communication, learning to anticipate the needs of animals and companions alike. Cooperation is not optional. It is essential to endure the harsh, shifting landscapes. Preparation is vital. Merchants carry not only goods, but tools, spare ropes, and basic medical supplies. Knowledge of the land is stored mentally, where wells exist, where sandstorms gather, and which tribes offer hospitality. Guides teach travelers to read stars for direction, to judge distances by landmarks, and to detect signs of fatigue or distress in animals. Every decision, from pace to rest breaks, can affect the success of the journey. The desert itself is both challenge and teacher. Heat, wind, sand, and occasional storms require vigilance, adaptation, and resilience. Travelers learn to conserve strength, shelter from the sun, and shield themselves from blowing sand. Animals, trained and responsive, are partners rather than mere tools. Observing them closely allows travelers to detect subtle shifts in the environment or anticipate hazards, underscoring the interdependence of all caravan members. Beyond physical survival, trade routes are also channels of information and culture. Stories, news, and knowledge travel alongside goods, creating connections between distant communities. Merchants exchange not only material items, but also customs, ideas, and techniques, enriching the regions they touch. The caravan is a moving classroom, teaching navigation, diplomacy, patience, and human cooperation on a scale that few other experiences can offer. Despite careful preparation, travelers face risks beyond weather and terrain. Illness can spread quickly, fatigue accumulates, and minor injuries may become serious without timely attention. Maintaining hygiene, treating wounds, and recognizing symptoms are all critical skills, learned through observation and experience. The desert teaches that survival is not only about distance or strength, but also about vigilance, care, and knowledge of both body and environment. As the sun sets and the caravan settles near an oasis, you see the intertwined realities of desert trade, cooperation, planning, resilience, and caution. And just as trade and travel demand preparation and skill, they also require readiness for unforeseen challenges, particularly sickness and disease. Travelers must learn to protect themselves and their companions, ensuring that the journey continues safely. This understanding naturally leads you into the next chapter, where you explore health, medicine, and survival in a world without modern conveniences. As the caravan rests after a long day's journey, you notice the care given not just to animals and goods, but to the travelers themselves. In a world without modern hospitals, survival depends on knowledge of the body, natural remedies, and attentive observation. Medicine and healing are woven into daily life, subtle yet vital practices that ensure both physical well-being and the continuity of community life. Herbal remedies form the foundation of treatment. Leaves, roots, and seeds are collected and prepared with care, each chosen for its specific properties. Infusions are brewed, poultices applied, and powders used sparingly. These preparations are accompanied by guidance on rest, diet, and moderation, emphasizing balance rather than reliance on a single cure. You observe the patience and attentiveness required, understanding which herbs soothe, which nourish, and which support recovery is a skill honed over years. Cupping is another method, approached with respect and gentle precision. Small vessels create a light suction on the skin, believed to stimulate circulation and ease discomfort. You notice the careful consideration given to each session, placement, duration, and attention to the individual's response. The practice is performed calmly, quietly, and without rush, reflecting an understanding that healing is as much about mindfulness as it is about technique. Honey, abundant and versatile, serves both dietary and medicinal purposes. Applied topically or taken internally, it supports recovery, soothes irritation, and enhances well-being. Its use is measured, combined with other natural substances, and always administered thoughtfully. You see how ingredients are valued not only for effectiveness, but also for their availability, sustainability, and ability to harmonize with other treatments. Rest is equally central to healing. Travelers and villagers alike understand that the body requires time to recover, and that fatigue or overexertion can undermine even the most careful remedies. Shaded areas, mats, and quiet spaces are provided for recovery, and communal routines are adjusted to support the unwell. The culture of care extends beyond the individual. Neighbors, companions, and family members observe, assist, and ensure that the sick are neither neglected nor rushed back into strenuous activity. Observation is key. Subtle signs, tone of voice, appetite, energy, or changes in movement inform treatment choices. Elders and healers rely on experience and careful listening, combining practical knowledge with intuition. The emphasis is always on gentle intervention, minimizing risk while maximizing support, ensuring that treatments nurture rather than harm. Healing practices are also intertwined with daily habits and hygiene. Clean water, simple washing, and careful food preparation reduce illness. Attention to animal care, waste management, and environmental observation complements direct remedies, demonstrating the holistic nature of health in this society. Body, environment, and community are inseparable in sustaining well-being. The lessons extend beyond the physical. Healing fosters patience, empathy, and awareness, qualities necessary for emotional resilience. Individuals recovering from illness or injury are supported, guided, and reassured, creating a framework for mental and spiritual strength. You begin to see that medicine is not merely the application of remedies, but a form of care that nurtures the whole person, balancing body, mind, and spirit. By the time evening settles, you recognize that these practices form a network of survival, guidance, and compassion. Herbs, honey, cupping, and rest all work together to sustain life, while observation and care teach attentiveness, responsibility, and community support. And as physical healing connects to patience and empathy, you are naturally led to consider the resilience of the heart and mind, preparing you for the next chapter, cultivating emotional and spiritual endurance in the rhythms of daily life. As the sun rises over the quiet settlement, you notice how life unfolds with measured calm. The days are neither hurried nor idle. Each action carries intention, whether tending animals, watering crops, or sharing a meal. From your observations, you begin to understand the psychology of a simple life, how peace is cultivated through routine, community, and contentment, even amid the challenges of the desert. Simplicity shapes thought and action. Without distractions of excess, people focus on what is immediate, essential, and sustaining. Tasks are performed mindfully. The motion of stirring a pot, the careful handling of tools, or the rhythmic gait of a camel on a caravan journey. These acts, though practical, also serve as meditative anchors, grounding attention and fostering calm. You sense that awareness of the present, rather than pursuit of distant desires, cultivates inner stability. Community plays an equally important role. Relationships are intertwined with daily survival, and bonds are nurtured through shared labor, meals, and conversation. People rely on one another for safety, sustenance, and companionship. Social norms, hospitality, and mutual respect structure interactions, creating predictable and supportive environments. In this context, contentment arises not from material abundance, but from trust, cooperation, and belonging. Gratitude is woven into daily life. Small acts, a cup of water, a piece of bread, a shared story, are recognized and appreciated. Even challenges, like navigating heat, wind, or scarcity, are met with patience and measured response. You notice that hardships are reframed as opportunities for learning, growth and the exercise of resilience. The mind is trained to see value in effort, skill, and endurance rather than longing for what is absent. Ritual and repetition reinforce stability. Daily prayers, regular meals, and consistent labor create a rhythm that supports both mental and emotional balance. Predictable patterns reduce anxiety, provide comfort, and allow energy to be directed toward meaningful tasks. You observe how even children internalize these patterns, learning from the cadence of community life and the guidance of elders. Connection to nature is also central. Observing animals, tracking the sun, and reading the desert's subtle cues provide both practical information and emotional grounding. Awareness of the environment fosters humility, patience, and attentiveness. You notice that contentment is strengthened by observation and participation in these natural rhythms rather than by control or conquest. Mindfulness emerges naturally. The simplicity of tools, foods, and shelters minimizes distraction, allowing focus on essential activities and interactions. Daily reflection, quiet observation, and attentiveness to others create psychological space to process experiences and emotions. Through this, you begin to see how mental clarity, emotional resilience, and social cohesion are cultivated in a world that values necessity over excess. Even moments of rest or storytelling carry psychological benefit. Listening to oral traditions, sharing experiences, or participating in communal activities reinforces memory, cultural identity, and social bonds. Joy, curiosity, and calm are found not in abundance, but in meaningful connection, learning, and shared rhythm. By evening, you sense the invisible architecture of this simple life, routines, community, and engagement with the natural world create a stable, supportive framework for thought and emotion. Hardship does not disappear, but resilience, peace, and satisfaction flourish within these structures. This understanding naturally leads to the next lesson: the rhythms of daily routine. The patterns of sunrise and sunset, work and rest, prayer and reflection, all guide human life in the desert. Observing and participating in these rhythms deepens both practical skill and psychological balance, showing how simplicity and structure shape a life of enduring contentment. The first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, painting the sands and rooftops of Medina in soft gold. You rise alongside the city, the calls of roosters mingling with the murmurs of early risers. A new day begins, guided by rhythm and purpose, where each moment has its place and meaning. Observing closely, you see how life flows from sunrise to sunset, structured by work, care, learning, and reflection. Morning starts with essential chores. Water is drawn from wells, animals are fed and tended, and families prepare for the day's tasks. Camels are groomed, goats and sheep are herded, and crops are watered or inspected for growth and health. These activities, though repetitive, are conducted with attentiveness, patience, and care. Each person knows their role, and through cooperative effort, the community functions smoothly, readying itself for both labor and social interaction. By mid-morning, the streets and open spaces of Medina begin to hum with commerce. Market stalls are arranged, offering dates, grains, pottery, textiles, and crafted tools. Merchants call out gently, inviting buyers to inspect their goods, while shoppers examine wares thoughtfully, asking questions and negotiating exchanges. The market is both a place of trade and a social center, where news, advice, and stories circulate alongside products. Children wander nearby, learning the rhythm of commerce, observation, and negotiation through quiet participation. Learning is woven into the day. In small groups or under shaded areas, elders teach practical skills, herbal remedies, animal care, weaving, and irrigation techniques, while children absorb language, numbers, and local history. Instruction is subtle and integrated into daily life, emphasizing observation and practice over formalized lessons. The city itself becomes a classroom, with each task offering insight into survival, culture, and community values. Midday brings respite. People gather in shaded areas, sharing simple meals of bread, dates, and water. Conversations are gentle, punctuated by laughter or stories from previous days. Animals rest, and the desert heat prompts slower movement, allowing energy to recover. Even brief pauses are meaningful, reinforcing social bonds and providing moments of reflection, gratitude, and calm. As afternoon progresses, work resumes with renewed focus. Fields are tended, crafts are completed, and goods are prepared for transport or trade. The city's pace adjusts naturally to the heat and light, creating a rhythm that balances effort with sustainability. Observation and attentiveness remain central, whether guiding animals, repairing tools, or assisting neighbors. Tasks are completed methodically, blending practicality with mindfulness. Evening approaches as the sun dips toward the horizon. Families gather, chores conclude, and markets wind down. Fires are lit for warmth and light, meals are shared, and communal spaces become places for storytelling, poetry, and reflection. Nightfall invites calm, signaling the end of activity and the beginning of rest. You notice how the day's structure, rising, working, learning, resting, creates both productivity and psychological stability, reinforcing the balance of physical, social, and spiritual life. By the time the stars emerge, Medina has settled into quiet. Animals rest, fires burn low, and the community prepares for sleep. Observing the city from this perspective, you understand how the combination of chores, markets, learning, and rest forms a coherent and sustaining rhythm. Each day is an intricate pattern of care, attention, and cooperation, allowing individuals and the community to thrive in the desert environment. As you reflect on the passing day, you recognize that this rhythm is not static. Sunrise, work, markets, and rest adjust subtly with the seasons, guiding life in harmony with nature's cycles. The daily patterns you have observed prepare you to understand the seasonal changes, how life adapts, and how the people of early Medina navigate time, climate, and environmental challenges. As the sun climbs high over Medina, its intensity is impossible to ignore. The desert's heat presses down, reflecting off sand and stone, reminding you that life here is intimately tied to the rhythms of weather and the changing seasons. You begin to observe how the people of early Medina navigate the challenges of temperature, precipitation, and wind, developing strategies for survival that are both practical and intuitive. Heat waves dominate the long, dry summers. Travelers and farmers alike adjust their routines, moving slowly during peak hours and seeking shade whenever possible. Wells are carefully monitored, and water rationing becomes essential. You notice that meals are light, often focusing on hydration and easily digestible foods, while clothing is loose and breathable to allow airflow. Camels and livestock are guided to shaded areas or light grazing grounds to prevent overheating, demonstrating the interdependence between humans and animals in enduring the desert's extremes. Rainfall is rare, but transformative. When clouds gather and drops begin to fall, the landscape changes almost instantly. Farmers welcome rain for their fields, observing where water accumulates and how it nourishes crops. Temporary channels are dug to guide water to palms and grains, and storage jars are positioned to collect every precious drop. Travelers recognize the danger of sudden floods in low-lying areas and adjust their routes accordingly. Even a brief shower requires careful attention, turning a natural occurrence into both an opportunity and a challenge. Sandstorms arrive unpredictably, sweeping across dunes and streets alike. You watch as people take precautionary measures. Tents are reinforced, animals are sheltered, and cloths or scarves are used to cover faces. Loose items are secured, and outdoor activity is minimized until the storm passes. The desert's wind is both a tool and a threat. It shapes dunes and patterns, but can also endanger life and disrupt daily routines. Preparation and vigilance are essential, transforming potential danger into manageable conditions. Seasonal changes guide long-term planning. Summer's intense heat contrasts sharply with cooler winter nights, prompting adjustments in clothing, bedding, and animal care. Crops are planted according to expected rainfall and temperature shifts, and caravan routes are chosen with climate in mind. You notice that observation and anticipation, rather than force or technology, govern survival strategies. Knowledge is accumulated over generations, taught orally, and reinforced by experience in both community and environment. Daily routines are molded by the weather. Early mornings and late afternoons are dedicated to outdoor labor, while midday heat is reserved for rest, study, or indoor crafts. Water consumption, meal timing, and work pace all shift in response to environmental conditions. Even storytelling and communal gatherings adjust subtly. Fires are managed for warmth or light without creating excessive smoke and dry winds. And shaded areas become preferred spaces for learning or socializing. Animals, too, dictate adaptation. Camels are led to higher ground during storms. Goats and sheep are sheltered. And horses are provided with shaded areas and sufficient water. The balance between human activity and animal welfare reflects an integrated understanding of desert ecology, ensuring that all members of the community, human and animal alike, can endure and thrive. By observing these adaptations, you see that survival in early Medina is a careful dance with nature. Heat waves, rain, and sandstorms are not obstacles alone. They are teachers, shaping schedules, work, and behavior. Each season offers both challenge and guidance, creating a rhythm that governs food production, trade, travel, and daily life. As the sun begins to descend and shadows lengthen, you realize that weather is not just an external force. It informs the very clothing people wear, dictating materials, layers, and designs that provide protection, comfort, and mobility. Understanding the climate naturally leads to the next lesson: the practical and cultural significance of clothing in desert life. As the sun dips low and the heat begins to soften, you notice how people move with careful consideration of both comfort and protection. Clothing in early Medina is more than decoration. It is a practical shield against the desert's extremes. Observing closely, you see how simple garments, layered fabrics, and head coverings combine to guard against sun, sand, and wind, while remaining adaptable for daily work and travel. Loose, breathable fabrics are the foundation of desert clothing. Light-colored garments reflect sunlight, while natural fibers allow air circulation, helping to regulate body temperature. Robes and tunics are often layered to adjust for changing conditions. Mornings may be cool, requiring an extra wrap, while midday heat calls for minimal, airy coverage. Each piece is chosen thoughtfully, balancing protection, practicality, and comfort. Head coverings play a particularly important role. Scarves, wraps, or turbans shield the face, neck, and shoulders from harsh sunlight and blowing sand. You notice how versatile these coverings are. They can be adjusted, folded, or layered depending on the wind's intensity, the sun's angle, or the nature of the task at hand. For travelers, head coverings also serve as markers of identity and social cohesion, blending utility with cultural expression. Footwear is similarly functional. Sandals crafted from leather provide protection from hot surfaces and rough terrain, while still allowing flexibility and airflow. You see that attention to fit, durability, and material ensures comfort over long walks or camel rides. Simple yet sturdy, footwear demonstrates how survival is intertwined with careful observation and skillful craft. Clothing also reflects preparation for seasonal shifts. Cooler nights require wraps or cloaks to retain warmth, while layers can be removed or rearranged as temperatures rise. Fabrics are selected for resilience. Natural fibers resist tearing and wear, while patterns and stitching are designed to endure frequent washing and daily activity. Even minimal accessories, such as belts or sashes, serve practical purposes, securing garments, carrying tools, or supporting small bundles. Beyond protection, clothing supports mobility and routine. Loose garments allow freedom of movement for chores, riding, or gathering water. Layers provide adaptability, ensuring that the wearer can respond to sudden gusts of wind, climbing dunes, or prolonged exposure to sun. Observation of the local environment informs every choice, showing how garments are a practical response to climate, lifestyle, and survival needs. Cultural and communal considerations are woven into clothing as well. Modesty, tradition, and social cues shape styles and combinations, while simplicity ensures that garments serve multiple functions. A single piece may be used for daily chores, travel, or ceremonial purposes, reflecting both efficiency and thoughtful resource use. You notice how clothing is shared, repaired, and adapted, reinforcing social bonds and practical knowledge across generations. Accessories, though minimal, complement protection. Simple belts, pouches, or wraps help carry water, food, or tools. Fabrics may be dyed or patterned subtly, signaling origin or affiliation without compromising function. The integration of practicality and identity demonstrates the balance between survival, aesthetics, and cultural values in everyday life. By evening, you recognize that clothing in Medina is a careful blend of function, observation, and adaptation. It mediates between the individual and the environment, providing comfort, safety, and flexibility, while supporting the rhythm of daily life. These garments, crafted thoughtfully and worn attentively, naturally lead you to the next lesson. Household items and tools, the objects that shape domestic life and daily routines, complementing the protection and function offered by clothing. After observing how clothing shields and supports daily life, your attention naturally turns to the objects that fill households and camps. In early Medina, survival and comfort are shaped not only by garments and craft, but also by the careful use of everyday tools, utensils, and simple objects. Each item, no matter how ordinary, serves a purpose and contributes to the rhythm of life. Bowls and jars are among the most essential objects. Clay vessels store water, grains, dates, and oil, protecting contents from spoilage and contamination. Their size, shape, and weight are adapted for ease of handling, stacking, or carrying. You notice how each household arranges these items for maximum efficiency, ensuring that daily tasks, cooking, serving, and transporting, proceed smoothly. Simple bowls become conduits of nourishment, supporting both health and community life. Mats and bedding provide comfort and insulation. Woven from palm fronds, reeds, or wool, they serve as sleeping surfaces, workstations, or seating areas. Mats are portable, easy to clean, and versatile, allowing spaces to transform as needed, from rest to study to communal gathering. Their careful maintenance demonstrates an understanding that even minimal comforts enhance endurance, focus, and well-being. Lamps and torches illuminate the night. Oil lamps, fueled by dates or sesame, provide steady light for cooking, crafting, or reading scrolls. Flickering flames create warmth and guidance, while also signaling safety and presence within households or communal spaces. Placement and maintenance are deliberate. A lamp is positioned not only for visibility, but also for safety, highlighting the balance of utility and foresight in everyday life. Ropes, cords, and simple tools extend human capability. They secure tents, tie bundles, guide animals, or assist in construction. The strength and reliability of a rope can determine the success of a travel, trade, or work, reflecting the importance of quality, technique, and attentive handling. Even the smallest knots are tied with care, demonstrating that mastery of ordinary objects can shape both convenience and survival. Every object is multi-purpose. A jar may carry water today and grains tomorrow. A mat may serve as a sleeping surface tonight and a workspace during the day. Observation and adaptability are key. Knowing how to use items efficiently reduces effort and ensures preparedness for changing needs or unexpected challenges. You see that these ordinary tools carry knowledge as well as function, embodying generations of experience and practical wisdom. Household objects are also embedded within social routines. Cooking implements facilitate communal meals. Lamps create spaces for shared storytelling, and mats allow gatherings for learning or prayer. Items are shared, repaired, and repurposed, reinforcing cooperation and mutual support. You notice how even small objects contribute to the cohesion of families and neighborhoods, shaping patterns of care, respect, and interdependence. Craftsmanship, though simple, is consistent. Bowls, ropes, mats, and lamps are made from local materials: clay, wool, reeds, leather, chosen for durability, availability, and practicality. Their creation requires skill, patience, and observation, demonstrating that ordinary objects are the result of both labor and insight. Each item reflects an understanding of the environment, human need, and social context. By evening, you see how these tools and utensils create a framework for daily life. From storing food to illuminating the night, from guiding animals to providing surfaces for work and rest, objects sustain both survival and social connection. They remind you that in early Medina, life depends not only on the body, mind, and clothing, but also on the thoughtful integration of simple items into a well-organized household and community. As the day winds down and families gather around fires and lamps, you notice that these objects are only part of a larger network of support. Just as bowls, mats, and ropes facilitate daily life, community systems, mutual aid, shared labor, and collective care ensure that survival, prosperity, and well-being extend beyond the individual. This naturally leads to the next chapter, exploring community support systems in early Medina. As you observe the careful organization of homes and the thoughtful use of everyday objects, it becomes clear that life in Medina extends beyond individual households. Survival and prosperity are deeply connected to the community. Neighbors share resources, support one another, and cultivate bonds that sustain both daily life and long-term stability. This chapter shows how charity, cooperation, and mutual care shape the social fabric of early Medina. Food is shared freely when scarcity strikes. Families with extra dates, grains, or milk distribute portions to those in need, ensuring that no household is left without sustenance. You notice that giving is not transactional. It is an expectation of mutual responsibility and human compassion. Even small gestures, a handful of dates, a jug of water, strengthen trust and solidarity. Through these actions, the community demonstrates that survival is collective, not solitary. Support extends to those most vulnerable. Orphans, widows, and travelers receive attention and protection. Children without parents are integrated into households, provided food, education, and guidance. Adults monitor their well-being, ensuring that they have shelter, clothing, and social connection. you see that these practices are not only moral imperatives, but practical measures. Nurturing the vulnerable strengthens the resilience and continuity of the community. Neighbors also assist each other in labor. Harvests are shared, fields tended collectively, and animals cared for cooperatively. During times of travel or festival, groups organize to transport goods or prepare communal meals. Work becomes both functional and social. It produces sustenance while reinforcing social bonds. Observation shows that collaboration reduces individual burden, increases efficiency, and strengthens relationships across families and neighborhoods. Protection is another dimension of community care. Walls, gates, and watch rotations provide physical security, but the deeper protection comes from awareness, vigilance, and mutual responsibility. When someone notices danger, a roaming animal, an approaching traveler, or an unexpected storm, alerts are communicated quickly, and aid is offered without hesitation. The social safety net is as practical as it is ethical, ensuring both survival and trust. Rituals of generosity, such as communal meals, charitable giving, or shared celebrations, further reinforce social cohesion. People gather not only to nourish the body, but also to exchange news, stories, and wisdom. In these moments, social identity and collective memory are strengthened, teaching younger generations the values of empathy, cooperation, and respect. These gatherings are practical extensions of community care, integrating daily needs with long-term cultural education. Trust is central. Relationships are maintained through consistency, fairness, and observable care. A neighbor who helps without expectation of return fosters reciprocal behavior, creating cycles of goodwill that sustain community life. Through observation and participation, you begin to understand that charity is not only an individual act, but a structured network of support, linking families, neighborhoods, and social institutions in a shared system of survival and well-being. The cumulative effect of charity and mutual aid is a resilient, adaptable society. When scarcity, illness, or natural challenges occur, individuals do not face them alone. The community's cooperation ensures that needs are met, knowledge is shared, and safety is reinforced. This web of support demonstrates that practical survival and moral responsibility are intertwined, each strengthening the other. By evening, after observing shared meals, collaborative work, and protective gestures, you sense that charity and mutual aid form the foundation for social harmony. People are connected not only by geography, but by shared responsibility, empathy, and a commitment to care for one another. These practices naturally lead to the next lesson: conflict resolution. In a tightly knit community, differences arise, and the ability to mediate disputes and maintain trust is essential for sustaining bonds and protecting collective well-being. As the evening settles over, Medina and the community rests from the day's labors, you notice that harmony is carefully maintained, not by chance, but through deliberate attention to fairness, communication, and mutual respect. In a closely knit society where survival depends on cooperation, disputes naturally arise. The people of early Medina have developed structured ways to resolve conflicts, protect the vulnerable, and maintain social balance. When disagreements occur, whether over land, trade, livestock, or resources, they are addressed calmly and directly. You observe that disputes are rarely ignored or left to escalate. Rather, they are brought to the attention of elders or respected community members. These individuals are chosen not for power, but for wisdom, experience, and impartiality. Their role is to listen carefully, weigh evidence, and guide the parties toward equitable solutions. Elders rely on deep knowledge of customs, agreements, and social norms. They remind participants of shared responsibilities, mutual obligations, and the broader impact of actions on community well-being. Through dialogue, storytelling, and gentle reasoning, they help neighbors see beyond immediate grievances to the long-term importance of cooperation. You notice that patience, respect, and attentive listening are as essential as any formal rule. The culture of fairness is reinforced through transparency and accountability. Decisions are explained openly, with reasons articulated clearly, so that all parties understand the outcome. Agreements are often memorialized in simple ways: shared oaths, witnessed handshakes, or verbal confirmations, ensuring that commitments are recognized and honored. This creates trust and reduces the likelihood of future disputes. Mediation is not punitive, but restorative. The goal is to maintain relationships and community cohesion. Even in cases of theft, miscommunication, or accidental harm, solutions emphasize repair, compensation, and reconciliation rather than revenge. Observing these practices, you see that safety is not imposed by force alone, but cultivated through trust, shared norms, and mutual responsibility. You also notice that conflict resolution is intertwined with daily life. Children learn from observation, internalizing the value of patience, respect, and listening. Trade agreements, shared labor, and communal events reinforce habits of fairness and negotiation. Over time, these practices become ingrained, shaping a community that can weather both internal disagreements and external challenges. Physical safety is also supported by communal vigilance. Watch rotations, coordinated animal care, and strategic positioning of dwellings reduce risk from natural hazards or roaming predators. But social safety, preventing disputes from escalating, protecting the vulnerable, and promoting justice is equally central. Elders, neighbors, and skilled mediators work together to create an environment where people can live and cooperate with confidence. The system is flexible, responding to context, severity, and the individuals involved. Minor misunderstandings may be resolved informally, while more complex disagreements require structured mediation. Across all cases, the emphasis remains on equity, empathy, and preserving social harmony. You sense that these processes are as much about teaching values as about enforcing rules, shaping not only behavior, but the character of the community itself. By observing the careful balance of authority, fairness, and empathy, you begin to understand how early Medina maintained stability. Conflicts are inevitable, but the culture of mediation transforms disputes into opportunities for learning, repair, and reinforcement of communal bonds. Trust, respect, and attentiveness are not abstract ideals. They are practical tools for daily survival and long-term cohesion. With these systems in place, the community achieves a sense of equilibrium. People can focus on shared work, worship, learning, and celebration, confident that disagreements will be addressed justly and safely. Peacekeeping, built on fairness and mediation, opens the door to understanding the broader harmony of early Medina, a harmony that integrates daily life, social connection, and shared responsibility. As the rhythms of daily life and systems of mediation settle into quiet harmony, the arrival of a traveler brings a subtle excitement to Medina. Hospitality is a cornerstone of survival and culture in this desert city, and welcoming visitors is both a practical necessity and a profound social value. Observing carefully, you see how guests are received, cared for, and honored, reflecting a deep respect for human connection and generosity. The moment a guest arrives, preparations begin. Hosts offer shade, water, and food, attending first to the traveler's basic needs. Even a brief stop demands attention to comfort and courtesy. Mats are laid, vessels of water provided, and simple meals arranged. You notice that these gestures are deliberate, reflecting awareness of both the guest's vulnerability and the honor inherent in offering shelter. Rules of hosting are both practical and moral. Visitors are offered protection and privacy, with hosts ensuring that personal or communal space is respected. Boundaries are clearly understood. The guest's needs are prioritized, but the household's routines and safety are maintained. This balance demonstrates that hospitality is not chaotic indulgence, but thoughtful care, guided by shared norms and empathy. Meals are shared with mindfulness. Bread, dates, cooked grains, and occasionally milk or roasted meat are offered, with attention to quantity, cleanliness, and presentation. Food is placed in communal bowls or on mats, and the guest is invited to eat first, signifying respect and consideration. You notice how these practices reinforce both nourishment and social connection. Sharing sustenance strengthens trust, bonds, and the sense of community. Storytelling accompanies hospitality. As the guest rests or eats, elders and hosts may exchange tales, recount journeys, or share news from distant regions. You observe that this is not mere entertainment. It is an exchange of knowledge, culture, and experience. Visitors bring fresh perspectives, new techniques, and awareness of lands beyond the city, creating opportunities for learning and reflection. Hosts also ensure the safety and well-being of travelers overnight. Animals are sheltered, lamps are tended, and security is maintained. Privacy is respected, and guidance is offered for the continuation of the journey. Hospitality extends beyond immediate comfort, providing a structured support system that ensures guests leave refreshed, informed, and protected. Children and younger members of the community participate in these practices, observing how generosity, attention, and respect are enacted. Through participation, they internalize lessons about compassion, reciprocity, and social responsibility. Hospitality becomes both a practical skill and a moral foundation, linking daily life to cultural values and community cohesion. The arrival of visitors also reinforces intercommunity networks. Merchants, scholars, and travelers carry news, goods, and stories between cities and tribes. Their interactions expand Medina's awareness of distant regions, facilitating trade, learning, and alliances. Hospitality, therefore, is not just an act of kindness, but a critical mechanism for maintaining social, economic, and cultural connections across the desert. By evening, you see how hospitality shapes the life of the city. Welcoming strangers is an opportunity to reinforce identity, share resources, and strengthen social bonds. It is a practice that integrates ethics, practicality, and pleasure, demonstrating that care for others sustains both individual travelers and the wider community. As guests depart, their stories and experiences linger, enriching Medina with knowledge of distant lands and new perspectives. These visitors carry ideas, goods, and cultural practices, reminding you that the city's life is not insular but connected to a broader world. Hospitality thus naturally leads to the next lesson: how travelers and residents alike engage with new regions, forging connections and understanding the lands beyond the city. After witnessing the rhythm and hospitality of Medina, your journey extends outward, following the paths that connect the city to neighboring villages, farms, and desert oases. Traveling across these lands, you begin to understand the diversity of life beyond the city walls and the ways people adapt to their environment while maintaining interdependence. Villages appear as clusters of simple homes surrounded by cultivated fields and grazing animals. You notice that each settlement has its own routines and practices, yet shares common elements with Medina: reliance on wells, careful water management, and cooperation among neighbors. Fields are neatly divided, crops rotate with the seasons, and irrigation channels bring precious water to palms, grains, and vegetables. Work is rhythmic and collaborative, with families assisting one another during planting, tending, and harvesting. Farms offer a glimpse into the practical knowledge of the region. You see date palms, barley, and wheat thriving under careful cultivation. Farmers demonstrate skill in managing soil, diverting water, and timing planting to avoid heat or drought. Livestock, sheep, goats, and camels graze nearby, their movements integrated into the land's cycles. Observation teaches you that survival depends on attentiveness, cooperation, and an intimate understanding of the local environment. Oases provide both shelter and resources for travelers and inhabitants alike. Palm trees offer shade, water springs support crops and livestock, and the surrounding desert reminds you of the fragility of life in such conditions. Caravans pause to rest and replenish supplies, and small markets emerge where local goods are exchanged with travelers passing through. You notice that oases serve as hubs of social and economic activity, connecting distant communities and facilitating the movement of people, knowledge, and resources. Travel itself is instructive. Roads are unpaved. Landmarks are natural, and navigation relies on observation of the sun, stars, and terrain. Camels and donkeys carry goods and people, guided by experienced riders who understand the desert's rhythms. Etiquette is observed among companions, sharing water, taking turns leading animals, and alerting one another to hazards. The journey is slow, deliberate, and marked by both effort and reflection. Interactions with local communities reveal variations in customs and craft. You see different housing materials, techniques for storing water and food, and approaches to trade. Hospitality remains central. Travelers are welcomed with water, shade, and meals, reinforcing bonds across settlements. These encounters emphasize the interconnectedness of desert life and the shared reliance on cooperation, observation, and generosity. Evening approaches as you move back toward Medina. The colors of the landscape shift with the setting sun. Shadows stretch across fields, palms sway in the cooling breeze, and small fires flicker in village courtyards. You notice how daily routines in villages and oases mirror those in the city. Chores, meals, rest, and social exchange all follow natural rhythms. Though life outside Medina may appear more scattered, the principles of cooperation, adaptation, and attentiveness remain consistent. Returning home at night, you reflect on the day's journey. The experiences of distant settlements, cultivated fields, and shaded oases deepen your understanding of the region's geography, resourcefulness, and social networks. Travel reminds you that Medina is part of a larger world, connected by paths, water, trade, and hospitality. These connections reinforce community values and highlight the delicate balance between survival, cooperation, and the natural environment. The day's exploration also encourages reflection on personal observation, endurance, and adaptability. Life beyond the city is both challenging and instructive, offering lessons in resourcefulness, cultural diversity, and the shared rhythms of desert life. The return home marks the close of one cycle, preparing you to absorb the insights of night, rest, and contemplation in the next chapter. After returning from distant villages and oases, the city settles into quiet, and the desert night unfolds around you. Darkness is neither oppressive nor empty. It is filled with subtle sounds, soft breezes, and the shimmer of countless stars above. Observing this calm, you feel the rhythm of life slow, allowing reflection, rest, and the gentle understanding of the desert's vastness. The sky draws your attention first. Stars spread across the firmament in intricate patterns, offering guidance to travelers and a sense of timeless continuity. Each constellation is a point of reference, a story whispered across generations. The heavens seem vast yet intimate, inviting quiet contemplation of your place within the desert world. You notice how night itself becomes a teacher, showing that stillness carries its own lessons, and that observation, whether of stars, dunes, or the subtle sounds of animals, is central to survival. Winds move softly through the sands, carrying faint scents of vegetation, dust, and the distant city. Unlike the harsh gusts of daytime storms, the night breeze soothes. Tents flap gently, palm fronds sway, and the soft steps of animals on sand are muffled in the darkness. The subtle rhythm of the wind provides both comfort and orientation, a quiet companion for those resting or traveling under the moon. Sounds are minimal yet deliberate. The low murmur of a sleeping settlement, the distant call of a desert animal, or the gentle shift of sand underfoot, each contributes to the night's texture. In these subtle noises, you sense order and life continuing, even in apparent stillness. The desert teaches that attentiveness to quiet details is as vital as responding to overt danger. Observing without intrusion, you feel the mind slow and the body relax, attuning to natural cycles. Nighttime also marks cycles of rest and reflection. People retire to mats, blankets, or simple bedding, caring for animals and tools before settling into quiet. Meals are minimal or already complete, and conversation softens. The darkness provides space for thought, reflections on the day's work, journeys, and interactions mingle with a growing awareness of how each element of life, the city, the desert, and the wider lands, fits into a larger rhythm. You sense the balance between activity and repose, learning and observation. Moonlight traces the contours of dunes and walls, softening shapes and revealing textures unseen in the glare of day. Shadows stretch and mingle, creating patterns that shift with time and wind. You notice how orientation, navigation, and even security rely on these subtle cues, reinforcing the lessons learned in travel and daily life. Night in the desert is not merely absence of light. It is a carefully observed environment, alive with signals and guidance. The stillness encourages inward attention. You reflect on clothing, tools, markets, hospitality, and journeys, on the interplay between human effort, community, and the environment. Observing the desert at night, you see how patience, attentiveness, and adaptability have guided survival. The calm teaches perspective. Small concerns fade. Patterns of routine and community emerge, and a deeper understanding of desert life crystallizes. By the time the first hints of dawn appear, the night has offered lessons in observation, rest, and rhythm. You feel a gentle connection to the cycles of day and night, to the desert's subtle communication, and to the quiet endurance of people and animals alike. The silence, far from empty, is rich with insight, offering the preparation needed for broader understanding of the desert, its culture, and its enduring patterns. These reflections of the desert night naturally guide you toward the next chapter, an exploration of overarching principles, insights, and wisdom gained from living, observing, and moving within early Medina and its surrounding lands. As the desert night fades and the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, you carry with you not only the sights, sounds, and routines of early Medina, but also the deeper rhythms that sustain life in a challenging environment. Reflection reveals that each aspect of this world, simple clothing, shared meals, attentive care for animals, cooperative labor, hospitality, and restful nights, offers lessons that transcend time. Simplicity emerges as a central theme. Life in the desert relies on what is essential: water, food, shelter, tools, and community. Observing this minimalism teaches restraint and intentionality. In a world cluttered with excess, the clarity of need versus want becomes a guide, helping the modern listener focus on what truly matters: relationships, well-being, and mindful living. Patience is woven into every action. crops grow slowly, animals must be tended regularly, and journeys across sand and wind require measured endurance. You notice that rushing is neither valued nor rewarded. Progress depends on steady attention and persistent effort. In modern life, this patience can inspire thoughtful decision-making, sustained learning, and the recognition that growth, whether personal, social, or professional, requires time and careful nurturing. Humility surfaces in the desert's lessons. Each person, from the youngest child to the most respected elder, acknowledges the limits imposed by environment, health, and resources. By observing vulnerability and dependence, you learn that humility is not weakness, but awareness. It cultivates empathy, strengthens community ties, and encourages responsible stewardship of both natural and social resources. Resilience becomes evident in daily survival and community cooperation. People adapt to heat waves, sandstorms, scarcity, and illness while maintaining cooperation and social cohesion. They repair tools, adjust routines, and support one another. Resilience is both practical and moral, a skill to endure challenges, and a mindset to approach difficulties with balance, observation, and creativity. In modern life, resilience teaches flexibility and resourcefulness in the face of uncertainty. Gratitude is quietly present in every routine. Each meal, source of water, shade, and helpful neighbor is recognized and appreciated. Observing the care taken in daily life fosters acknowledgement of small blessings, health, sustenance, and companionship. This appreciation nurtures contentment, reduces anxiety, and reminds the modern listener to value what is present rather than always seeking more. Through these lessons, simplicity, patience, humility, resilience, and gratitude, you begin to perceive patterns that shape the enduring harmony of early Medina. Life's challenges were met with thoughtful adaptation, social cooperation, and respect for the environment. Learning from these practices offers guidance for navigating modern complexities, how to organize priorities, cultivate meaningful connections, and maintain mental and physical well-being. You also notice the importance of observation. Desert life demands attentiveness to the sun, wind, water, animals, neighbors, and one's own body. Observing carefully teaches more than instruction alone. In a contemporary context, mindfulness and attentiveness foster better decision-making, empathy, and situational awareness. Finally, these lessons invite reflection on interconnectedness. Every act, feeding animals, tending crops, welcoming a traveler, mediating a dispute, affects others. Life in early Medina shows that choices are rarely isolated. They ripple through community and environment. For the modern listener, this reinforces the value of conscious action, social responsibility, and awareness of one's impact on others. As the desert light strengthens, you feel a gentle stillness within yourself, shaped by observation, experience, and reflection. The simplicity and rhythm of life, the attentiveness to both nature and community, and the enduring values embedded in daily routines leave a lasting impression. These lessons, though drawn from a distant time and place, resonate with timeless wisdom. inviting calm, reflection, and mindful presence in the modern world. One final reflection brings the journey to its peaceful close, that by observing and internalizing these practices, the listener is not only transported to another time, but also guided to live with awareness, care, and gratitude in the present, carrying the quiet lessons of the desert into every day. As the first warmth of sunrise stretches across the desert, you feel a gentle stirring that signals the closing of your journey through early Medina. The sounds of animals, the whisper of wind across dunes, and the faint bustle of daily life begin to fade, replaced by a soft awareness that the time you've spent here is drawing to an end. Yet the calm and wisdom you have gathered remain, ready to accompany you as you transition back to your own world. The journey feels less like a departure and more like a gentle unfolding. Each moment, the stillness of the desert night, the shared meals, the hospitality, the careful observation of work, and the rhythm of daily life has left its imprint on your senses and your mind. You notice how these experiences, though distant in place and time, resonate with universal truths: patience, attentiveness, compassion, and balance. You take a deep breath, feeling the dry, fragrant desert air fill your lungs one last time. The sun rises higher, spilling light across the sands and walls of the city, and the clarity of morning emphasizes how interconnected everything has been. You realize that survival was never just physical. It was emotional, social, and spiritual, shaped by the relationships, routines, and values of those who lived in harmony with their environment. Slowly, the world around you begins to blur. The tents, markets, and fields fade into soft light. The sound of camels' footsteps, the clatter of pottery, and the gentle hum of daily life drift away, leaving only the memory of rhythm and calm. In this quiet, you carry the desert's lessons: how to observe attentively, act with care, and respond with patience and humility. The desert silence has taught you to notice, reflect, and find peace even amid movement and noise. Returning to your modern surroundings, the contrast is gentle rather than jarring. The lessons of Medina remain present in subtle ways. A mindful sip of water, the thoughtful arrangement of a space, a moment of patience in conversation, or a quiet reflection at the start or end of a day. You feel the calm and intentionality of the desert infused into these ordinary moments, transforming the way you perceive and inhabit your own life. You carry gratitude for what you have witnessed and learned. The generosity of neighbors, the care for animals, the simplicity of tools and clothing, and the attentiveness to rhythm and routine all leave their mark. These impressions are like seeds, ready to grow into mindfulness, resilience, and empathy within your daily routines. Each lesson is portable, requiring no desert, no caravan, and no distant village. Only awareness and reflection. The world around you reasserts itself slowly. The familiar sounds of modern life return, but you notice them with a renewed perspective. Noise is softened by inner calm. Movement is measured by awareness. And the patterns of daily activity are touched by the quiet patience of the desert. You feel that the wisdom of early Medina, is not a distant curiosity, but a companion for living thoughtfully, kindly, and fully in the present. As the story closes, you rest in the knowledge that you have traveled not only through space and time, but through ways of seeing, being, and relating. The desert's silence, the city's routines, and the bonds of community remain with you, not as distant memories, but as guiding principles. In every moment, small or large, the lessons of simplicity, patience, humility, resilience, and gratitude can be recalled, offering both perspective and serenity. And so, with a final breath of calm, you are fully back in your own time, carrying the quiet light of early Medina within you, ready to live with the peace, attentiveness, and wisdom it has offered. The journey ends, not with fanfare, but with gentle serenity, softly closing a chapter of exploration, reflection, and lasting insight.